The Shiner by Nolan Zavarol. Have you seen the lawn? Troy's father asked. Lying in bed, Troy groaned. Why? He asked. Did somebody steal it? Very funny, his father replied, but he didn't seem amused. That lawn needs mowing, his father told him. Pretty soon it'll be as overgrown as Mr. Stanley's next door. He's too old to mow his lawn anymore. What's your excuse? I'll do it in a little while, Troy said, closing his eyes. A growing boy needs to sleep. But his father didn't move. I'm not telling you again, he said. Troy knew when to give in. He got up and pulled on a pair of torn jeans and a t-shirt. He kicked his sneakers out of the way and searched under his bed for his heavier work shoes. His father watched unsympathetically. Your mother and I are going down the street to visit Mrs. Handel. She's home from the hospital. When we get back, I expect to see the lawn mowed. When Troy reached the kitchen, his little brother Philip was spooning cereal from a bowl. Want to play catch? Philip asked. I want to sleep, answered Troy, but I have to mow the lawn. I'll help, okay? You're eating. Not anymore. Philip jumped up from the table and followed his brother out the door. Troy rolled the mower from the garage under a brilliant white sun. Let me push, Philip said. You can't touch it. Dad's orders. You know that, Troy said. Their dad was very careful about safety and had taught Troy every step of using the mower. This was the first summer Troy had mowed the grass on his own. Doing it was a condition for getting his allowance. Troy stooped beside the mower, unscrewed the cap, and peered into a small dark hole. What are you doing? Philip asked. Seeing if there's enough gas, Troy answered. He nodded and replaced the cap. We're okay. Standing, he yanked on a rope. Nothing happened. What are you doing now? Troy tried a second time. What are you doing? Philip asked again. What does it look like? I'm trying to start it. Times like this, Troy thought, he would trade Philip for a decent cheese sandwich. Stand back. Give me room, he said. On the fourth pull, the old machine sputtered and growled to life. Already, sweat streaked the sides of Troy's narrow face. Up and down the sloping lawn he pushed the mower. Philip followed so closely that when Troy turned, he had to wave him away. Hey, look! Philip shouted. He pointed at the window next door, where Mr. Stanley's wrinkled face appeared between the curtains. Old Mr. Stanley. Grumpy Mr. Stanley. Don't hit that baseball toward my house, Mr. Stanley. Philip waved at their neighbor. Troy lunged for his brother's hand, missed, and the lawnmower slipped away down the incline. It rumbled down the slope on its own. I'll get it, Philip yelled, and he ran after the mower. No! Come back! Troy tore after his brother. The safety handle stuck, and the engine kept running. Philip caught up with the mower after it veered onto Mr. Stanley's unkempt lawn. As the machine chewed through the high grass, the whirring blades suddenly made a loud clank. Philip spun toward Troy. His hands covered his face. Ow! He screamed. Ow! Something hit me. His hand was over his eye. The mower's engine growled and sputtered and died. Philip crumpled to the ground and Troy raced to kneel beside him. Take your hands away and let me see. No, it hurts, Philip sobbed. That old mower hates me. Troy leaned over his brother and put a hand on his knee. The mower sat silent a few feet from where it had thrown the rock that struck Philip. The lawnmower doesn't hate you, Troy told him. Mowers can't hate. A door slammed. Mr. Stanley tottered toward the boys, leaning on his cane. Haven't I told you to? Don't play on my lawn. You make too much noise. Don't. My brother's hurt. Troy jumped to his feet. Stop yelling at him. Mr. Stanley stumped a few feet farther, leaned over his cane, and touched Philip's hand. Let me see, boy, he said in such a soft voice that Philip's hands parted. There it was, a swelling over Philip's right eye with streaks as dark blue and red and purple as the sky before a thunderstorm. Will he be all right? Troy asked. We need to get some ice on it right away, Mr. Stanley said. Wait here. Troy was surprised at how kind his voice sounded. Philip was bawling now. Troy didn't blame him. He didn't feel so good himself. What if their parents returned and saw Philip holding his head right beside the mower? More important, what if Philip was seriously hurt? He shouldn't have let his brother get so close to that mower. Hurry, he begged Mr. Stanley silently. Please hurry. Finally, Mr. Stanley pushed out the back door and hobbled toward the boys, his right hand holding a plastic sandwich bag full of ice. He asked if Philip could see all right, and Philip nodded. Put this over your eye, then. The old man held out the ice in a shaky hand. Philip obeyed him, and Troy could breathe again. You should be fine, Mr. Stanley told Philip, except you'll have a shiner. A what? Philip asked as he pressed ice to his face. A shiner, Mr. Stanley repeated. That's when you get hit near the eye and it turns all different colors. Like a rainbow? Philip asked. Mr. Stanley smiled. If rainbows had black, maybe. Troy had never seen the old man smile. Maybe there were things that he didn't know about Mr. Stanley. One thing was sure. The old man had appeared just when Philip needed him. Did you ever have one? A shiner, I mean? Philip asked him. Why, yes, I have, Mr. Stanley said. A boy named Sebastian gave me one when I was about your age. I still remember that fist connecting with my cheekbone. Very painful. He looked thoughtful. But that wasn't the most painful part, he added. What was? The brothers asked together. The other children just stood and watched, Mr. Stanley said. No one helped me. Philip shifted the position of the ice pack and I'd be mad, he said. So was I. But that was a long time ago. Now help an old man up, Mr. Stanley said. Mr. Stanley lost his balance and began to trip, but Troy caught him by the arm. The old neighbor nodded his thanks and asked, What are you boys doing the rest of the day? Troy pulled Philip up. He'd been thinking about that. My brother is going back in the house, he said, and I'm going to do something I should have done before. I'm going to mow your lawn.